Republicans got to decide what came up for a vote. That is tragic, and you all should be pissed. You all should be pissed.
We know what's going on.
And that's why you're here, because you are pissed. And I'm proud of all of you for taking the time to come up here and stand and to fight for what the real unity is that we need. We don't need to unite behind the status quo. We need to unite behind principle, character, what we saw on February 18th of 2023, because we had control of the delegates statewide. We had control of the state delegates at the state convention. And we got leadership, a principled person who we could believe in, who we should have followed and united and gotten behind and stood behind throughout the way.
That's right. Absolutely right. Hear, hear. He's absolutely right. Stand behind the right people.
So what did I hear on February 18th of 2023 when I was on the convention floor? I heard that there was going to be a vote of no confidence on Christina Cromwell in 120 days. They were talking about it and starting up the firestorm against her before she even accepted the nomination as chair of the party. That is inexcusable. And it wasn't just that they were bitter and then they, went back home and settled down and just said, okay, well, you know what, I guess that's fine. It is time to come together. No, a lot of them continue to press forward. Before that first state committee meeting on April 15th, they were ramping up the efforts then. I was working behind the scenes talking to some of the state committee members, trying to talk them off the cliff. That, guys, don't do this, don't do this. We need to be united as grassroots people in the party right now. It is not a coincidence that for the first time, we've seen a removal or an attempt of a removal where we are right now of a party chair, and that it's the first time we've actually had a grassroots person at the helm. Right. We took back control of the party. It was us. And Christina was the leader of it, but it was us who had control of the party.
That's right.
And the deep state didn't like that.
Right.
So they did everything they could to undermine us. They cut off the financial supply to the chair.
All right. Well, we'll come back to see some more of that clip in a few minutes here, but that's, I guess, a good way to set the table for what we're going to be talking about tonight. Welcome, everybody, to a Rescue Michigan live stream. Joining us once again is Scott McMahon, who has, I think, been a guest like 2 or 3 times now on our show, and just keeps having more to report in this very bizarre story of this subversion of the Republican Party. Which, when I made the title for the stream, I almost called it the subversion of the Michigan Republican Party, but no, it's something much bigger than that. And so Scott's going to talk to us a lot about what he's seen going on in other states, but. Well, first, we got a little bit to talk about with that clip. That was, of course, Representative Steve Cara protesting on the property of the Michigan Republican Party building in Lansing this past Saturday, which is a great time to protest when nobody's there, but there they were. I guess it's not a big deal that they were trespassing, but I guess the party was decided not to make a big stink about that, but whatever. But there's a lot to unpack there, Scott.
On Friday instead.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what that was being there on a Friday either, though, of course, because, what they're going to do. There's a lot to talk about in that little clip. That was just 2 minutes of like a 12-minute speech, but I guess the place to start with would be we controlled the party. He said that multiple times in that 2-minute clip. We had control of the delegates statewide. He kept saying that over and over again, as if Christina got elected on the first ballot, which she didn't. But we had control of the ballots. We had control of the delegates. We had control. The deep state doesn't like us having control. We were in control. Apparently, these are not free-thinking people that were attending the state convention, serving. And this is something I've heard this also from people. Sometimes the delegates are like, I was sent to the state convention to serve my constituents. I was elected to the state party to serve my constituents from my county. Well, apparently they were not doing any of that. They were the property of whatever party, whatever segment Steve Cara claims to represent. It's weird.
Yeah.
Very, very strange.
The more I learn about them, the less I understand how these people think. Like it doesn't, there's so many contradictions. It's just like the left. It's really hard to understand them.
Yeah. I mean, Steve Cara is someone I've known for years, and I don't think he is an agent provocateur and any of this stuff. I think he's been caught up in this and caught up in this narrative. As several of these Republican lawmakers who have actually excellent voting records. I mean, they empirically do. But I feel like, I mean, maybe I'm wrong about this, but my thinking is that they, I mean, to the extent that Republicans even have any access to Lansing money anymore, which they hardly do, but the hardcores, tend to get frozen out to begin with. So this is kind of like his way of, I mean, he's not in his district, obviously. His district, I think, is in, I don't forget exactly where it is, but it's in southwestern Michigan someplace. Definitely not in Lansing.
Right.
But he's looking for, and this is like Pat Colbeck years before, he's looking to build a profile among the patriots across the state, and this is the way he does it. But yeah, I think he's laid a lot on the line here, taking the side of Christina Caramo, and he goes off, of course, in a lot of different ways, talking about how all the things that have been argued and endlessly in court we can talk at horse talking about. He claims that people weren't up on their dues, therefore the removal of Christina was illegal, and yada yada yada. And this has been litigated. I mean, we've talked about this on the stream.
It's ridiculous. Yeah. It's not even his argument was just so weird. Actually, the way he framed his argument about that is that it was a that they hadn't paid the dues when it was submitted, when the petition was submitted.
Yeah,
or no, they hadn't paid their dues when they actually signed, but they had paid their dues by the time it was submitted. So he was splitting hairs in such a way just to try to create some illegitimacy around it.
Yeah. The other thing too is he makes this allegation. He said, according to him, he said before Christina even accepted the nomination, there was bald accusations that there was going to be according to him, there was going to be a vote of no confidence in 120 days, which there wasn't. So whoever, and I've heard the other Christina people saying this, there never was actually a vote. I don't know where he got this from.
Right.
I don't believe he heard this himself firsthand. I think he's just repeating things other people have told him. But something else caught my attention on this, and this is, let me pull up this video. This is from another part of this same clip. Let's see here. This is the video on your new webpage, by the way. You had been at biggertruthmedia.com or I think biggertruthmedia.com, but you now are on Substack.
That's
Bigger
right.
Truth.
Substack.
Substack.com. And yeah, and Bethany says yet the secretary Angela hadn't paid her dues at all. Yep. Funny how that all works. Anyway, we have this is another part of the clip. This is, let me hold on, I got a timestamp written down here. This is from 7 minutes and 43 seconds. This clip here.
And
let me rewind it here.
we need to follow the true Republican Party platform. We need to follow the Constitution.
Okay, this guy here in the red glasses, the red shirt. You'll also see him at the very end when Steve is finished. He takes his hand, takes the microphone back. That's C.J. Richard. Now, why is he an interesting character there? Why is he interesting to me that he's at this? Let me go back to the clip so we can see C.J. Richard. Here's the thing about C.J. Before Ron Weiser was chair, the chair before him was Laura Cox. And CJ was an operative for Laura Cox. And the moment Ron Weiser became the chair, CJ starts attacking Ron Weiser the day he got elected. And it starts spreading all these ridiculous rumors, talking about bribery schemes, all kinds of other gibberish. The day Ron Weiser got elected. Imagine that. So here's CJ, who from day one was trying to sabotage the Weiser administration. Didn't get very far doing that, but whatever.
Isn't he also the guy that was sending those just absolutely bizarre emails? Like just completely off the rails, like crazy cult emails?
Yeah, he's sent out a fair number of emails in the past few weeks. Yeah, Aaron says he ran for a chair last cycle for a minute. Yeah, that's...
And he's the guy that was going around with the Trump mask all the time, right?
Was he? I don't know. Hey, Shane, you might know something about this. Was CJ Richard wearing Trump masks? Was he doing that? We were just talking about our friend CJ Richard.
Yeah, he goes around. He puts on like a plastic Trump mask and has like red glasses around
Trump
head. and does the rubber Trump head and does lengthy rambling video blogs in it.
Wow. Anyway, we were just watching, Shane. We just did our little cold open with a clip of this 2-minute clip from our friend Steve Cara in Lansing, saying a lot of unusual things, some things that we've kind of talked about on the show previously. But here's another thing he said. He said the deep state doesn't like us having control over the party. Again, the control over the party that he asserts that he has, or we have, whoever the royal we is. So they cut off the financial supply. That's weird. I don't remember when Christina Caramo ran for state chair, her saying she was going to take the money from all the deep state people that funded the Republican Party. I thought she said she was going to find a whole brand new source of funding for the GOP.
Yeah, she said that she was gonna have all the small businesses, all the small businesses in Michigan would be so enamored by her and her leadership and her style and her substance that they would just fork over all kinds of money, and they would, that would easily replace and they would exceed what Weiser was able to raise from, his own wealth and from. Yeah, exactly. So.
50 million,
Laughable
right?
stuff, and it's sad. It's sad that the delegates fell for that. But not only did Christina say that she was gonna bring in that new money from the small business owners, she also totally took a big crap on Weiser and took a big crap on the establishment and said she didn't want their money. So it's not like she was cut off necessarily. They'd have probably cut her off, even if she wanted the money, or maybe not. Who knows? But she said that she did not want the money. She didn't want their dirty money, and then apparently thought that the entire party could be run with no money, which we saw go, horribly off the rails over the past year. So the idea that she was, sabotaged by the establishment, that may be the case, but she did her, she shot herself in the foot over and over again. You can't sweep that under the rug either.
Yeah. Hey, by the way, Shane, you got a little bit of feedback on your line. I don't know if it's just maybe the microphone connection or something, but yeah, just when you're not speaking, if you just mute yourself, that'll be helpful. Anyway, so there's some other things that Cara mentioned, and for folks that want to see the entire clip, you can go to Scott's new website, biggertruth.substack.com. Here is the latest article. That's where the video for this is, and then there's some other elements of it that. Scott, you mentioned in your article about this, like his misquotation of Galatians, where he says the Apostle Paul is, they're going to try to come and try to pervert the truth. They're going to try to make what's mainstream seem radical, what's radical seem mainstream, which is not what that actually says. But in the context of what he's talking about, of course, though, the essence of what he's saying is. We got to stop the rhinos. We need to go against them, which is, the complete opposite of what Paul was talking about in that chapter. But that's another thing we see everywhere is the abuse of the Bible that these people do all the time.
And that's nationwide. In every state that I've looked at, they use the same types of scripture, trying to caution people to be wary, to be on guard, to don't trust anybody. The enemy's all around you, and you're in a holy war, and God is on your side.
Yeah. And of course, he concludes by saying they need to take back the Republican Party from within, and everybody needs to become a precinct delegate. I happen to agree with that. Everyone needs to become a precinct delegate because these are the people that we're going to be competing with in the next convention cycle, starting in the next term. By the way, Shane, feel free to unmute yourself whenever you need to speak, but that there is still that noise in the line for some reason. Yeah, it's still there. All right, Shane. Yeah, I'm going to keep you muted until you got something to say. Then you can unmute yourself, and then just talk, and then mute yourself back up again. So let's talk about that, Scott. That's, I think, the big story for tonight. The other thing that we were going to talk about, this is better, I think, than there's three of us. The other thing we want to talk about, too, is there's this struggle session with Melanie Greenfield, which I guess was over the weekend as well in the 1st District. That's up north.
That was Friday.
Friday. Yeah. And that is, I think you have that on your...
It's on YouTube. I put it on YouTube. There's a link on Twitter too.
Okay, I'll bring that up in a moment. We'll get to that at some point, but that's a very long clip. But going to the tactics that these people use, it's always the same stuff. It's always shouting people down. It's always invading events. No concern for the private property of the state party, as we just saw. I mean, I thought they're going to be like on the sidewalk or something like that. No, they just go right into the parking lot, stand right in front of the building, use the building for a backdrop. No understanding of property rights, no understanding of rules of order, except when they want to lie about them and abuse them. No respect for decorum. And then we had this struggle session with Melanie Greenfield. Let me find this briefly. Just so
if you go to about an hour or two or so. That's when she started talking. But so the first hour was really just an attack, a continuous attack on her character. Dan Bonamy brought up the supposed charges, which was that she was colluding with Democrats to try to take out 3 Republicans on his Beaver Creek Township board, and including himself. But he didn't provide any evidence at all. He just read something off of his screen. He kept saying that it was Democrats that she was colluding with, but the reality is it's not a Democrat group. It's mostly Republicans and 1 independent, as far as I can tell. And I've spoken with a couple of them. So
Yeah, you see, there's someone in our chat making the same allegation as typical stuff. No evidence whatsoever, just a bold accusation. But
Yeah.
here is
Aren't
the
these,
actual video.
township races though? Aren't they nonpartisan? Don't
Yeah.
these have to do with local issues and not anything to do with the district?
I believe that the township supervisor, clerk, and trustee are that they are partisan races. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it really depends. Some races are some local races are partisan, some are not.
Yeah, but the reality is it's not it wasn't even a part of. She's only met with 3 of the people there, and none of them are Democrats. The people that she's met with. So yeah, and he just says it's a Democrat group. So I guess we're supposed
and there was no evidence provided, no hard evidence. Just a lot of, she's working with Democrats because I say so. And we had these text messages, and these text messages hurt my feelings. And I've heard that she was yelling on the phone. This is the kind of stuff that was brought on during the trial that they said wasn't a trial, and it really is kind of peers behind the looking glass of how these people operate, and how a lot of these people they will launch some very dirty, vicious attacks, but then they will immediately go and play the victim, and play the holier than thou card when it benefits them.
Right.
So just blatant hypocrisy here.
And it wasn't even that. It wasn't just that. They were attacking her character, repeatedly attacking her character. And then when she was defending herself, they were accusing her of attacking them. All she was doing was trying to defend herself, and they were accusing her of attacking them. It was just throughout the entire attack, it was this hour long, and they multiple times they said, well, I can't wait to see, I want to see what you have to say. I hope you come around. That kind of idea. Like, I hope you actually change your beliefs and repent and that, which is the exact objective of a Maoist struggle session. And they would accuse her of doing the things that they were doing as they were accusing her of doing them. It was just absolutely insane.
And I think maybe if we're going to play a part of it, we should play her response at the end, of going back against after hearing an hour of people just drag her through the mud. She gets maybe 4 or 5 minutes off before they just totally stomp her out and say, call to question, and won't let her address the specifics of the accusations against her. We want to silence you. We want to throw you out. That's what this is about. It's not about any sort of fair hearing of grievances. It's, we're going to trash you. You try to respond. We're not even going to let you. We're not even going to give you the token ability to say your piece. We're just going to roughshod you. We're not going to allow you any free speech. And now you're out and you're castigated.
Yeah. So here's where you can find this. This is Scott. This is your Twitter feed or X. You posted this on the 17th, 2 days ago. Here's the full video, and then the comment is right here. Jeff Strasser says, play the whole video. Don't cherry pick for your pleasure. I thought about playing this entire video and having us watch it and comment on it the entire way through. But first off, we're already 20 minutes into the stream here, guys. I don't think we're going to want to spend the next 2 hours watching this video, pausing intermittently.
It's
long, right here, folks. You can watch it for yourself. Every single
and really, it's the way we summarized it. If you want to say how we were wrong in summarizing it, please tell us. But at the end, the way they, it's very clear when they run roughshod over what Melanie was saying, even if they disagree with it. They said their piece for over an hour. Now, you can't even give Melanie 10 minutes to say what she has to say and then address what has been hurled at her. They obviously didn't do that. They shut her down, said call to question, and let's get her out of here. So that's very clear from the part of where she starts talking it on.
Well, and if you
Yeah,
played
for
the
those
whole
who don't
thing, you would actually make them look even worse. I mean, it doesn't make them look
we
better.
need to do a follow-up where we do go through the entire thing, because I do think, I mean, seriously, folks, I strongly encourage everybody watching this stream, when you find the time, to watch that entire thing from start to finish, so that you can see exactly what this struggle session. And by the way, for those who don't know, struggle session is not this term invented by American liberals. This is what the Maoists did in the Cultural Revolution, which is where, I mean, it's kind of their own equivalent of a lynch mob, where the party would gather someone into a group for humiliation, for public flogging. They often were violent. It's not a trial at all. There's no pretense of any kind of judicial due process, as you pointed out, Shane. When they say call the question, that means shut down debate, don't let her talk. That's what these people do. That's how they operate. That's because that's who they are. They are Maoists. They are communists, and that's what they do. So there you go, folks. Maybe we will do a stream where we watch the entire thing from start to finish. But I think the more interesting thing that I want Scott to talk about tonight, which is your other new piece on your new Substack, which is this one, where you've now gone through. I mean, you've been looking into what's going on in Michigan for a very long time. Well, I say a very long time, but several months.
Journalist, yeah.
And Shane, I remember you were telling me when you went out to the Turning Point conference a month or so ago, people were saying like we could finish each other's sentences because this exact same thing is happening all over the country.
Yep, it was like, yeah, we're having the exact same problems where we're at. It's like it's from the same playbook all over the country where we're getting overrun, and ostensibly a lot of the people who are doing the overrunning are patriots, but how are they being guided? Who's pulling the strings? What are they actually accomplishing? And the answer to those questions are not good.
Mm-hmm.
So Scott, why don't you start talking about what's been your why don't you start with Arizona, I guess, because that's a major one.
Yeah. So in Arizona, there is there's some differences that I think are important to understand. In Arizona, there's a lot fewer counties. I'm not sure how many counties, but Maricopa County has 65% of the voters of the entire
Arizona is basically Phoenix, and then there's a few other places here and there.
Yeah, so 2/3 of the voters in the entire state are in Maricopa County. There's 20 different legislative districts just within the boundaries of Maricopa County. And so it's kind of the opposite of Michigan, where the counties are junior to the districts. There, the districts are junior to the counties. In most cases, some of the other counties, there's multiple districts, but there's multiple counties within a district. But
yeah. Oh, by the way, you're getting banned in my chat, just so you know. Folks, I believe in free speech. I also believe in property rights. If you came here just to shit on me, you're getting banned. I'm sorry. Do continue.
That's all good. Yeah. So anyway, so in Arizona, Maricopa County is there's two. Craig Berland and Shelby Bush are disruptors. Shelby Bush was one of the organizers of the Arizona audit, and I'm not yet certain if she was a disruptor operator from the beginning, or she just got a taste of power and ran with it. I'm working on a story right now about Maricopa County that's going to be very revealing. No reporter, in talking with the people that I've been talking with there, no reporter has covered the story at all in Arizona. At least the way that from the perspective that it's being covered now, that I'm covering it. So all of the conservative journalists there have been either just not wanting to talk about it or on the side of the disruptors. And so this is it's gotten a lot of attention. But yeah, so Maricopa County is run by disruptors. They are right now actively trying to take over districts within the county. In LD4 is the second largest district in the state. And 3 weeks ago, they had an election, elected a new chair because the previous chair stepped down. And immediately he was not on the Disruptors side. So immediately they claimed that there was election fraud. How did they not vote to count 200 votes? But they were claiming that there was election fraud. So last week they had an emergency meeting, and at that meeting, they held the meeting, or not an emergency meeting, but a special meeting, to affirm the results of the election. And so basically kind of holding the election again that they just held 2 weeks ago, and to pass to bring forward and to vote on a resolution declaring their autonomy, and that the Maricopa County was not that they had their own sovereignty, that Maricopa County couldn't dictate to them who is their chair, who their executive committee members, or they call them precinct committeemen, so delegates there. So those were their two big issues for the meeting. And Jeff Greenspan, who's on the executive committee for Maricopa County, he actually stood up, and there's video of this, where he said, he told the body of 197 in attendance, he told them that if they voted for this, if they did not abstain from voting, that they would become just a club, that MCRC, Maricopa County Republican Committee, they would form their own LD4, their own executive committee, and everybody there that was voting for it, that wasn't abstaining, would be left out, and they would just be part of a club, and they wouldn't be able to participate in AZGOP. It was pretty shocking.
So when they say LDs in Arizona, that's the equivalent of like congressional districts. We call them in Michigan the CDs or the LDs. Same thing. Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah. Stephanie Miller says these people ain't so ignorant to think conservative Republicans are Marxist. Well, gee, Stephanie, do these sound like conservative tactics to you? Making threats,
right?
Well,
protesting
other people's property. Does that sound like a conservative tactic or a Marxist tactic? Does having a struggle session sound like a conservative thing to you or a Marxist thing to you? I mean, you judge people by what they do, not what they say they are. I mean, it's one thing if you're a lawmaker and you've got a record. I'll give Steve Carra that. But these other people, I don't know them very well.
Right.
The
whole nature. Go ahead.
What do you feel the environmental TPUs? I don't know if you want to speculate on that or not, but that's up to you, Scott. I have no idea.
I'm gonna hold that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't have enough evidence to say one way or the other.
From what I've seen, Turning Point's doing a good job of trying to, modernize the infrastructure of the Republican Party. They want people to focus on chasing ballots and, using the different, going on the offense, using the tools at their disposal under the law in order to increase voter turnout and increase more ballots. But it's a tough dance because a lot of the grassroots people, they want to reject early voting, absentee voting, and mail-in voting. Maybe mail-in voting should be rejected, but they want to reject all early voting and absentee voting because of their what happened in 2020 and how they feel that they were cheated with those methods. But if you look in areas where early voting and absentee voting, where Republicans do a good job of getting those numbers up, they can win. So by rejecting those things, you're just shooting yourself in the foot. And I think Turning Point USA wants to get more Republican activists out there chasing ballots, getting the low propensity voters, low propensity conservatives, making sure that they're made as easy for them to vote as possible. And that way we can get our numbers up and win in 2024 rather than losing and then just saying, oh, shucks, it was rigged after the fact and crying about it for years after the fact.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the insane thing in Arizona in the last election, there were so many problems on election day because of, Mike Lindell and, some of the other, so-called election integrity experts were saying, you got to vote on election day. And that created in Arizona, especially massive, massive problems. And a lot of those I think were engineered by the Secretary of State, Katie Hobbs, that was kind of running her own election. But it it still created a lot of issues, and it's absolute insanity to continue to say we need to vote on election day, especially in Arizona.
I mean, that's how you lose turnout. It's to tell
That's
people
right.
to vote early.
And
And
these
everyone knows you say vote early and vote often, which is kind of tongue in cheek, but that's the whole point is you don't fail to vote that way. I mean, I would say never vote by mail, but you don't have to. You can vote in person early or by absentee ballot. That's how I've always said vote. Go to your clerk's office, get an absentee ballot, fill it out right there, turn it right in, get it done early.
Yeah.
Jeff Strasser says, so it must have been a Marxist attack on KK to have her removed as chair. Huh? Well, actually, the way that was done was remarkably full of law and order, that they followed the bylaws rigorously. They collected exactly the number of petition signatures they needed to. They called for a special meeting when Christina wouldn't seat them for a special meeting. They followed the bylaws to have their own. This is exactly what was just determined by the RNC, by the Judge Rossi's courthouse. Every single thing they did was by the books, like a conservative does. Stephanie says, you're ignorant calling people Marxist. Well, we're showing you. We're showing you by what they do. I don't know if let's read some Rumble chats too, because we got some chats on Rumble here. It's me again. Sai says, yes, Turning Point USA has a ballot chasing operation they started this year in Arizona. I wonder if they're going to tell people to vote on election day. It's me again. Sai also says Bernie Moreno wins Ohio Senate primary. I don't know who that is. David Davis says, not all of us are nuts, but yeah, many on the first district EC are bat-s crazy. I don't doubt. Chris G65 on Rumble says, it's stupid to reject early voting. We can't count on tons of people to show up on election day. Yeah, that's what happens all the time, folks. I mean, you guys think we all tend to do this. We tend to think everybody else is like ourselves. And so we're like, okay, yeah, vote on election day, because there's no way I would ever fail to vote on election day. The reality is tons of people do fail to vote on election day because they don't care that much. And something comes up in their day or in their life. And they're like, you know what? It's only one vote. Who cares? That's how thousands and thousands of votes in any given election, millions nationwide, just get missed because people don't vote on election day. That's why the Democrats, who know what they're talking about, try to get everybody to vote early, vote absentee. That's what that's all about. Ice Pick on YouTube says, Scott, Adam, and Shane, we need exposure in Grand Traverse County now. Please help us. We have a KK that is destroying our local Republican Party. Elected officials are being railroaded, and it cuts off there. But that's too bad, because that's a swing seat where we should be doing everything we can to defeat Betsy Kofia in the upcoming election there.
Yeah, and that's the point, is the disruptors do not want to win elections. They have zero interest. You just look at what Karama's record. What did she do in 11 months as she was in office to help win in November? One thing.
Yeah, they want to burn the party down and rule over the ashes, and be like, oh, look, I'm king of this little fiefdom that doesn't really accomplish anything.
Yeah, you had a great quote on your X feed, Scott, that just said the only election the disruptors care about is the election for precinct delegates.
That's right.
Because that's all they want to do is take over the party.
Yep.
So they can sit there and do something.
Yep. And in every state, that's the case.
But let's go back to talking about that. So do you have more about Arizona, or should we talk about Idaho, or what do you think we should
do
next?
That story about LD4 is interesting. So they held the vote, and they held it twice because they protested. I don't even know what their complaint was about the first time. They won the first time. I think it was like 88 to something, 88 to 48 the first time with several abstentions. And then after the third, then they redid that vote because there were complaints that, they didn't count the votes right or something. And each time it grew. So by the third vote, they had 105 votes and like 80 something abstentions. So it was very clear that the non-disruptors, the good guys, whatever you want to call them, that they won the day, that Morgan Perry is the chair there, and that he was affirmed that he's the chair. MCRC didn't care, though. They've already announced that there's going to be a special meeting. So they are calling a meeting for the district. The district's not calling this. It's like total violation of the bylaws. MCRC is calling a meeting for the district to remove the executive committee members that they don't like. And so Morgan's going to go. They're going to bring all their people. They'll have, because it's still the same body that's voting. So they're going to make sure that everybody's there, and they're going to move to dismiss. And so that'll be interesting. That's going to happen, I think, next week. But it's lawless. It's complete lawlessness.
Yeah.
And the whole nature of the party is it's supposed to be a bottom up power structure. I mean, that's what the Republican Party is supposed to be about. But the disruptors in every state, they're about making it a top down structure. They want to restructure the party to make it a top down tyrannical dictatorship. We saw that with Christina Caramo.
Yeah,
And
we
one of
did
the
a whole
things-
episode for anyone that hadn't seen it where we talked about this constitution that they were trying to pass, which thank God they couldn't. I'm sorry, go ahead, Shane.
And a lot of the things that we did in during the Tea Party era, the Liberty people, the Tea Party people, we would come in with fair rules that would give more power to the elected executive committee members, or people who the people who have been elected, because there were leaders who were running roughshod over all the precinct delegates and all the elected precinct delegates, different executive committees, and not giving them their rights. So we fought for these reforms all throughout the state. And then the new batch of people come in and they want to uproot those reforms because they think they have the numbers. And we're just going to steamroll everyone, even if, you may be a conservative. You may have fought, since the Liberty days and the Tea Party days for a more conservative Republican Party. But screw you, because you've been involved. While I was sitting on my ass, you guys were involved, so you're a piece of garbage and you have to go. That's the mentality here. And many good people have been swept up into this, and they've become disenfranchised. And then as the new people take control, and they don't have the institutional knowledge, they don't have the experience, and and then they've alienated all the people who do, and then they're failing and they're fledgling and they don't know what to do and can't raise any money and don't know what's going on. Then they look for more monsters to destroy. So let's throw out Melanie Greenfield, the top fundraiser in our district. How's that going to make things better? How's that going to make things more cohesive? How's that going to improve the committee? It's not, but it's all about the more they fail, the more they fall on their faces. It's just who can we go after next? That's what they're thinking. That's the mindset there, and it's shameful.
Yeah. Jeff Strasser says, wrong. She's trying. She build it from the bottom up. You guys are the ones going from the top down, just like it's always been. You guys are trying to keep things the way it was, the corruption and the payoffs. Well, gee, Jeff, let's look at the evidentiary record here, folks. When has the state party ever once tried to intervene in county or district parties' business before Christina Caramo? Oh, never. What happened when Christina Caramo was chair? She created a conflict resolution committee for no other purpose than to intervene in county and district business, and then attempted to overthrow a county party. That's what the record is. Stephanie Miller says you guys should join the Pete Hoekstra Bootlicker Club on Facebook.
Have we even mentioned Pete Hoekstra yet? Has anybody mentioned Pete Hoekstra yet?
Oh, I think there's been one or two. We've been reading, someone else, there's another one up here someplace. You guys are so afraid of what people say you have to block the truth. I've been reading more comments from you guys than I have from people that agree with us tonight. By the way, yeah, Jason says, where's my money? I want my money laundering cartel money. I mean, that's the thing that's the thing too. All these people, like, hey, who's the guy who's like actually keeping track of the entire record of every single lawmaker in Lansing and documenting it so you guys could actually go after the rhinos for the bad records? Oh yeah, that was me.
But that actually takes hard work. That takes structure to go after the rhinos in Lansing. You have to be diligent. You have to be patient. You have to build.
To do work. To read.
Build. Yeah.
Read a bill.
You have to, build organizations and build structures on the ground. And it takes time. It takes hard work. It takes effort. It's much easier just to enrage a group of precinct delegates and cause trouble with your local party so that you can have your little fiefdom and feel like you're some hotshot patriot. So that's what a lot of these people would rather do than do the hard work of actually cleaning up corruption and fighting back against the rhinos. And then that gives the rhinos more cover. And it just is a vicious cycle that is destroying the grassroots.
Yeah. It's me again. And Rumble says, I hate Hoekstra, but we are stuck with him. Yeah, he wasn't my first choice for replacement chair, but you know what? We wouldn't have him if Christina had just not lashed out at everybody and gotten us into all kinds of frivolous lawsuits and all kinds. We talked about this on previous streams, guys. If you want, for all you folks who apparently are new to my stream, go back. There's been stream after stream after stream covering all these issues up to this point. But now here we are talking about what's going on in other states and how this is the important thing too, is that this is a pattern. This isn't just happening in Michigan. It's the same story over. And here's the thing too. I saw this caught my attention the other day. This was a post on X from Russ McNamara, who is a liberal hack on WDTE. That is state radio, Detroit Public Radio. There he is there. Reposted by Craig Mauger. And it's an article by Francis Donnelly. He was also a writer for the Detroit News, as is Craig Mauger. And it's obviously, the story says a true believer goes to the Capitol. Obviously, it's a hit piece on Josh Shriver. But here's what caught my attention. This guy says, the rise of Christian nationalism is going to be a major storyline this year. Folks, they're telling you what the narrative's going to be. Like, you can see it in plain as day. It's not going to be Russian interference. It's going to be Chinese interference in the election. That story's coming too. And it's going to be the people supporting Trump are all Christian nationalists. This is the narrative they're trying to build. This is the narrative the mass media is trying to build. Who is trying to feed that narrative? Like, usually when the media is like, here's how we're going to pigeonhole you. Here's how we're going to label you. Here's how we're going to target you and isolate you. What you're supposed to do is then try to work away from that stereotype. Okay, well, let me market myself as just someone who is a normal person who's outraged at the extreme policies of the Biden administration that's destroying our economy, destroying our rule of law, et cetera. By the way, extremely important hearing in the Supreme Court on the First Amendment. I think it was actually today. Maybe it was yesterday. I think it was yesterday. We'll talk about that one of these days. Anyway, this is the narrative they're going for. And again, this is the premise I started off in my email blast today, folks. We know that the deep state was involved in rigging the 2020 election. They were involved in framing people for the Whitmer kidnapping hoax. They were involved in agitating people on January 6th. And they were involved in censoring the media. So why in the world would you not think that the deep state is trying to manipulate Republican politics in swing states? Because that'd be weird if they weren't. And if they were, what would it look like? It looked like this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. I mean, it would be.
It would look like this. It would look like. Shoot, the best ones are the ones I banned. Oh well.
Well,
anyway, you get the point.
Yeah. So the Pacific Northwest is actually really interesting, because they have a history, I think, with more like white nationalist groups, and there's more of a history there of racism and neo-Nazis and that kind of thing, and militias. I actually spoke with someone who it was the craziest conversation. He was the founder of the 3 Percenters in Idaho, and I won't go into all the details of his story, but one of the things that he told me about is how Nick Fuentes, he is a known white supremacist, neo-Nazi scumbag. And he started a PAC called the America First PAC. And it's very likely that he's
the Groyper movement, they call it.
Exactly.
Yeah. By the way, we're just read a quick chat here. KLSC says, it wasn't for Christian nationalists who wouldn't. I get it. I understand. I know the history of our country. I'm saying, what's politically smart to be doing? Playing into the stereotype they're coming after you with, or trying to write against that? Anyway, sorry, Scott, go ahead.
Yeah. So there's a lot of connections between these disruptor organizations in Idaho, Washington State, and Oregon, and these militia groups like the 3 Percenters, the Oath Keepers, and also known white nationalists, and people that have a record of making public statements that are clearly racist statements. So this isn't just like the left saying, oh, they're all racist. These are people that are legitimate racists. I mean, they make comments about like the whites being the superior race, and like anti-Semitic comments, and it's garbage. And they are, what they're working on, what these disruptors are doing by taking over the party, is they are making the party more and more ideologically extreme. And we're seeing that here in Michigan, although it's not so much with the racism. Carra was very, very much working towards making the party much more ideologically extreme to the right, and so that it would not appeal to the moderates and the independents. There's more independents than there are of either party in Michigan. And in order to be, these disruptor groups pretend like they own the election integrity movement, whatever that movement is, that they're the only ones that believe that there's election fraud. It's hogwash. There's clearly election fraud in Michigan, and it's baked into the cake. It's not something that we can change. The only way that we can change the laws is by winning elections. And in order to win elections, we've got to win by a big enough margin that they would have to conjure more votes out of thin air than there are people. And if they did that, it would be so obvious that there is nobody that would say that it was a fair election. And so they know that they can't cheat to that extent. So there is a way that we can win, and that's the only option. These people in the first district now are saying that there's an easy way, and that's by overthrowing the local government. It's absolutely insane. They're saying that if they create a mob around the township clerks and provide some sort of crazy legal notice that references the preambles of all of the 50 state constitutions plus the US Constitution.
I'll pull this up so people can see what you're talking about. Although, by the way, Anthony Miller says, "So big men you are, running your mouth, blocking my wife." Well, Anthony, I've been airing comments from lots of people tonight who don't agree with us. The ones that have blocked, the ones that had nothing to say except calling me names. Then sorry, you're not welcome here if you're just going to call me names. Debbie says, "Why are you deleting Americans against Biden as president remarks?" Hitting close to the bullseye. I don't think those are sentences. I cannot follow that. Anyway,
I wanted to add that they're talking about Christian nationalism, and obviously Christina Caramo is a Christian, and probably the vast majority of her supporters are. But what I would like, it's almost like what I feel like they're almost like QAnon type people. It's almost they're involved in those baseless, bizarre theories, a little bit of a different spin on them than the trust the plan people of yesteryear. But the conspiracies, kind of harken back to what people were saying in QAnon. And plenty of conspiracies are true, but when you are so fantastical and you're so over the top and ridiculous in spewing obvious nonsense, then it detracts from the legitimate conspiracies, like Epstein Island, 9/11, or JFK assassination, just the three offhand, that people, if you can really lay out a case to show that those were conspiracies. But when you're talking about, we're all the deep states after Christina Caramo, and everyone, all these different elected Republicans who, were elected after the establishment was blasted out. They're all working with the deep state, and they're all in on it. It seems laughable to a lot of Republicans, but just imagine of how people who are outside of this echo chamber, they see this stuff and how silly and ridiculous we look. And then we fall into the talking points that the Democrats put out there that, the Republicans are crazy. And then people will vote for the Democrats thinking they're the saner alternative when, obviously it should be the opposite. But, we're just so many Republicans are playing into that. And, there's probably, different operatives embedded into the movement, but a lot of these people are doing this thing, doing stuff on their own accord to hurt the movement more than the deep state or the establishment could ever do without the help of these people.
Yeah. So here we go. This is what, Scott, you had posted the link to this website called WeThePeopleNotices.org, which apparently I've heard from conflicting things. Some county chairs have gotten a notification from these people and some have not. According to this article, it says all 83, I know Patty's going to take umbrage at this, all 83 Michigan Republican Party county chairs, with an apostrophe, have received an educational letter instructing them on how the precinct delegates, also in possessive, can restore all the political power back to the people and restore our constitutional elections simply by dissolving their voluntary association with the County Election Commission, making the people boss over government. This should certainly sounds like something that will definitely work. God.
I mean, I bet it'll work, between this and surety bonds and
Yeah.
sovereign citizen stuff. We put
Yes.
it all together. We're going to have our freedom back in a jiffy.
Yeah. So here's what they say. Fill out the people's notice number 3 below. Please contact your county chair to see if they have signed and returned their notice to the precinct delegates. And let's see. Okay, there's not a hyperlink, so I guess it's below here.
You have to click on it so that you gotta study all the flowcharts though.
Oh yeah, let's study the flowcharts here. This looks like this reminds me a lot, and Chin, you touched on this when you mentioned the surety bonds. Yes, I was just going to say, who remembers Rick Martin, the fake attorney? This was the guy. There was a rally in Michigan in Lansing in the lockdowns, and I think Stand Up Michigan hosted the rally, and they invited this guy to come to the rally. He tells everybody, what you need to do is you need to file notices with your local township boards and with their banks, and you need to go after their surety bonds, and you need to bankrupt these bastards. And he had a fake he pretended to be a lawyer for a long time until the court told him he had to stop pretending to be a lawyer. He'd been put in jail a lot of times over this stuff. Got that poor woman in trouble, and I think it was Ottawa County that owns that restaurant, Marlena Pavla Sinkney, I think her name was, posing as her lawyer in court. But the language and the style resembles his handiwork. I don't know if it's the same thing or not. But yeah, here we go. So here, I guess, is this notice number 3? Or no, this is okay. The people's notice number 3. Let's see here. So there's this form. Start filling. Okay, let's start filling this out. Dear officer, please take note that the people with rights inherent from God assembled, consulted, and created the Michigan Constitution based upon the common law of the ages, written maxims of law. This Constitution is supreme in its authority and supersedes all statutory authority. Yeah, this will totally work. Like I remember once. This was probably 10 years ago. No longer, 20 years ago. I came into contact with a guy from the sovereign citizens movement who told me to come to one of their meetings and learn all the ways that you can, that you don't have to you don't have to pay taxes, you don't have to do anything the government wants you to do. And I go to the meeting, and it's in Eastern Market in Detroit, and the speaker is a guy who claims he's been pulled over many times by the police, and he shows them his international driver's permit that you can just make yourself or something, and they just let him go. And this is a black fellow. I somehow doubt that this fellow has been pulled over by the cops and shows him a fake license. And yeah, I'm a sovereign. Yeah, sure you are, buddy. I'm like,
I heard one of those guys, and they said, renounce your U.S. citizenship and then grant yourself diplomatic immunity, and you can park anywhere, you can speed anywhere, you can do anything behind the wheel because you're now a sovereign citizen, and all the government can do is just stand in awe of how brilliant you are after you do these things. And then people will actually, there's always a guru who's totally full of shit, and then people will actually follow these gurus, and then they'll end up in jail. And,
well, the sad thing was this woman that took me to this route, to this thing, her son was also in the sovereign citizen movement. She says, I keep going to these classes week after week. They charge like $25 or something for every class that people go to. And she says, I keep going to these classes because my son, he did something wrong and he didn't follow the procedure properly, and they took his kid away and put him in jail. Like, so she's going to keep coming to this meeting because her son didn't do it right and got taken to jail and got his kid taken away. I mean, that's
highlight Jeff Strasser's comment.
He says, it is a pain in the ass to become a siren citizen, and if you do become a siren citizen, you are technically a diplomat, but always don't go ahead and get the diplomatic paperwork to go with it.
Is he a writer for the Babylon Bee?
I don't know. He's very good. But anyway, but no, seriously, again, folks, think about the narrative. Think about what they want you to do. If they wanted you to make the conservative movement look like a bunch of complete maniacs, this is what they would do. So anyway, we've gotten a little bit off topic. We were going to talk about other states. So you're talking about Idaho.
So this website, this is breaking. I'm going to break it right here on the show because I haven't written the story yet. But I have identified, I believe, the so-called brains behind this operation. And he's from Arizona.
No kidding.
So the website is registered in I wrote it down here. Craig Snyder's name, and he is a student of a man. Craig Snyder's in D1. He's actually on the executive committee for D1, and he started promoting in February, maybe earlier. I've got screenshots of this that he's been promoting a man named David Jose out of Arizona.
I was going to ask what that was. This David Jose active notices, but you're telling me that some guy in Arizona is telling the people of Michigan. I was wondering why it says to the people of Michigan, like we're not, like he's not part of us.
It's exactly
So
correct.
some guy from Arizona is telling Michigan's 83 county chairs what to do.
So three members of the executive committee in District 1 have been promoting this guy like he's this guru that's going to give them liberty from the man that's taken their dear leader Christina Caramo away, and that's corrupted the election systems. And so that, the slavery, and he uses slavery versus liberty or whatever, he uses that type of language. And he says in all of his stuff, he says you'll be the people are the boss over the government. And this is what he teaches. And these people, it is a Gnostic cult, and where there's some secret knowledge that if they just attain this secret knowledge, like that's the reason why that woman kept going back to take these classes, because she just doesn't know it well enough yet. And
Yeah.
these people have been attacking me like crazy on Twitter since I started calling them out day before yesterday. And it is absolutely nuts. They are it's like two cults converging here. So it's Roxanne Dufort, Larry Hull, and Craig Snyder, three members of the executive committee on District 1 I have screenshots of it that they've been promoting this guy since February, maybe earlier. And he already had this website created for his notices that he sells or whatever, and classes that he sells. I don't even know how he makes money, but the ultimate goal of this is, and I have had multiple people saying, well, if what we have to do is overthrow the government, then so be it. This is so what the message is of this website is, if you don't like our election laws, we need to fix it because you're the boss of the government, so you can fix it. All you need to do is overthrow the local government. And
That's all.
and this is something that they have. This guy's got, if he's not FBI, I don't know who is. He has students all across the country in New Hampshire, Georgia, Oklahoma, California. I spent about an hour and a half today taking screenshots on his Twitter feed. It is absolutely insane. So go ahead.
It begs the question, is this the plan? They've been, ever since January 6th, they've been pushing nonstop that patriots and right wingers and conservatives, libertarians, Trump supporters are terrorists, and we need to have a war on terror against them. They're the real terrorists, not ISIS, not Al Qaeda, not any Muslim threat. No, it's Trump supporters. And now you have all these different splinter cell type organizations that are teaching people that you need to take this radical document, or take this document in, and if your local officials don't sign it, they don't recognize it, then you have to take the next step or whatever. So now you have these all these different people, patriots who were formerly regular Republican activists who go hit doors and try to get Republicans elected and try to make the Republican Party more conservative. They're now breaking off. They're not engaging in any of that traditional activism stuff that might actually get Trump elected.
It's divide and conquer.
Yeah, they are pursuing these dangerous ideas, and then if it goes haywire, if people really run with this, then the feds are getting exactly what they want to further the crackdown against the constitutional rights of patriots. So I'm not 100% convinced that it's an op, but it definitely fits the it checks all the boxes for exactly everything that the feds would want patriots to be doing, rather than getting involved civically and in the Republican Party, getting productive to get Trump elected. No, join this weird group and engage in this radical behavior instead.
Well, the other thing too is here's a serious question. What is the actual objective in taking over the state GOP? If you think about this for a minute, wait a second. What power does the state party have? They don't choose who our U.S. Senate nominee is. They don't choose who our congressional nominees are. They don't choose who our local candidates are, although Christina apparently wants it to be that way, but that wasn't going to happen. But, they nominate for a few things here and there, Attorney General, Secretary of State, university boards, but relatively in the grand scheme of things, is that worth spending 4 years of your life trying to overthrow the state party? Are you trying to get the corrupt money out of politics? Well, that's not going to work at all, because guess what the money just does? It goes through different conduits. When Christina was on office, guess where the money was coming through? The HRCC. So what's the point? Well, one possible reason is it looks really bad when some random yokels in Michigan are framed and alleged to have tried to kidnap Gretchen Whitmer. Looks a lot worse when they're party officials, though. Then it starts looking really bad. Then you're going to start putting people in positions of, are you going to announce this or no? I mean, that's where the PR nightmare that's going to start coming this way when you've got sovereign citizens and 3%ers and all these types in party officer roles is, we can't solve it with Christina, frankly. She got us in a fair number of PR debacles. Nothing quite so bad as that in her time, but
well, you also look at what they do have the power to do is to make the party completely ineffective. They have the power to get rid of everybody that knows that has the connections, money, experience, and overall ability to get things.
Like I said, okay, so form your own club. The wackos take over my county party, we form our own county party club, and then all the donations will go to that instead, and the money goes to the same people anyway. What's the big deal? That's not the point of this. The point of this is, well, I think there's a lot of points to it. And I forget, was it you who said this? No, someone was telling me, and they were quoting, I want to say, who's that guy? Dennis Prager, saying, the only objective in the left is to cause chaos. Once you understand that's their only objective, then it starts to all make sense.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Yeah, this is, you look at the goals, you look at what they've actually done, and you look at what they're doing and what they're continuing to do. Just when the moment that Christina was removed, legitimate or not, if she cared about the organization on January 6th, she would have stepped down. If she cared about the party, she would have put the party above herself and say, okay, well, I don't agree with it, but I care more about the party in this country, so I'm going to step down. I'm not going to create chaos. That's what any sensible leader would do, anybody that cares about the organization. And so the fact that she refused for 2 months to step down and called herself the legitimate chair, did everything she could to slander everybody else and blame everybody else, and divide the party as much as she possibly could, that right there just proved definitively that she did not have the best interest of the party, and even worse, her goal was really to destroy it.
Yeah. Or at least the goal of someone manipulating her objective was to do that. Speaking of that,
but she's responsible for her actions.
Yeah,
whatever.
I agree. She's responsible. I don't know that she's entirely cognizant of what the consequences of her actions are, but that's the way that goes. But speaking of that, and getting back to some of these other states, again in Idaho, same story.
Yeah,
almost to the letter.
Yeah,
the Idaho GOP chair ran for Secretary of State, didn't get elected, got in, and starts doing the same thing, rewriting the bylaws in the state party.
Exactly, and they created in Idaho the Constitution that Carra put forward. Most of the things in that, there's a Article 20 in their state constitution, their newly revised, it's not constitution, their newly revised state bylaws, created a conflict resolution committee where they've already begun holding trials against so-called rhinos to remove them from the party. And so they're doing it. They're using that conflict resolution committee for that. They have put in place, Dorothy Moon, I put it in this story. There's a story that I had found that Dorothy Moon had engaged in essentially, an alleged psychological operation against the RNC committeemen, who was splitting his residency. I mean, he was still living in Idaho, but he was going back and forth between North Carolina and Idaho, and because his daughter was going to college there, and so he, to try to shorten the story, she coerced him essentially by telling him that even his very best friend, who he had been in a plane accident, and like a massive accident, and it was the friend that was at his side in the hospital, and she told him that his best friend wanted him to quit, and she was like, there's some level of like almost like blackmail that he was alleging, and he was so upset, like so hurt by just the whole idea of this. He knew that he wouldn't say that, but she was saying that he did, and he didn't know what to believe. And she said, all you have to do is just text your resignation. And so he just did it right there without even thinking about it. And so the RNC said, well, the moment that you put your resignation in writing, you've resigned. And which legally that's correct, but he tried to appeal it. So he ended up no longer being the RNC committeeman. They put in place somebody that's very close to Brent Reagan, who is definitely a disruptor. And he apparently, this guy, his name is Brian Smith. The way that he made his money, I'll say allegedly, is that he had a company that was buying medical debt. So if somebody had a $500, $1,000, $5,000 medical debt, he would send allegedly the bills. Once he was a debt collector, so he'd buy the debt. He'd send the bills to the wrong address intentionally. He would serve them at the wrong address intentionally so that he could get a default judgment and add on all of the legal fees that he claimed himself. So he'd make a $500 debt into a $5,000 debt. And there were 25,000 people in residents of Idaho that were kind of a victim of this, according to stories and that published stories. And this is now their RNC committeeman. And it's the same kind of thing. We see these people with these really seedy backgrounds in South Carolina. Jeff Davis, he was convicted of $950,000 in embezzlement that he stole he was a financial advisor. And he told his clients that he was going to be buying stock in some local bank, and instead he uses collateral to get a $5 million loan. And then they started getting notices for default on that loan. And so and he got convicted. That was in Georgia. He moves down to South Carolina. He had always been a Democrat. He and his wife had supported Bernie Sanders, or his wife had supported Bernie Sanders in 2016. And then all of a sudden he's getting involved in the Republican Party, and he takes over MySCGOP, myscgop.com, in kind of a crazy way, right at the week after the November 2020 election. And myscgop.com runs these Rock the Red conventions that are kind of like CPAC of the South. They're these like big concerts. They're huge events, concerts and conservative speakers and rallies. And so now all of a sudden we have him running this. And here you see, they changed it. Well, they say now drain the rhino swamp, but it used to be,
looks like they might be reacting to some unwelcome publicity. They say, welcome visitors from across the country. Feel free to use our tools to learn about precinct reorganization, and get ideas on how to drain the rhino swamp in your state. Join our newsletter. And
they changed the language a little bit already on that after my story. I have screenshots of how it used to be.
Interesting. Well, there it is. And there's obviously, I'm not going to go through this whole thing.
Yeah, but there's actually they may have taken it down. But
precinct projects, take over your precincts.
Yeah. And so that's what he did, is he made myscgop.com into just like MIPF. It was the a delegate recruitment and indoctrination tool. And he uses it as news. He uses it for character assassination of all of his enemies. He's engaged in multiple class action lawsuits against other Republicans. So he's an attorney. I don't know how he still has passed the bar after being a convicted felon in embezzlement, but he's still an attorney in Georgia. And so he files these lawsuits himself, and he does it just to try to get people to go away. And you know, but he's getting countersued. And I understand that just last week, judge in one suit where he's suing 20 different Republicans, the judge dismissed the suit and held him liable for all of their attorney fees. So now he's liable for 20 different defendants' attorney fees. And he's getting countersued, and yeah, it's ugly. But I could talk about him for quite a bit because he's a character.
You know what I find interesting about all this too is, and just I'm thinking out loud here about South Carolina. I'm no expert in other states' politics. One thing I do know about South Carolina is one of their U.S. senators is Senator Lindsey Graham, who's rather well known to be a rhino. There was Tim Scott, who's also kind of lesser known, but considered by many to be kind of a rhino. I was wondering, what are these people saying about Tim Scott and Lindsey Graham? It turns out basically nothing. They just have here's how you take over your precinct. Here's how you use Robert's rules. It's all the same stuff. No actual targeting any actual rhinos anywhere. It doesn't look like.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been poured over this entire website word for word here, but I don't see anything about any of these, actual concerns. It's all the targets are always just the fellow Republican workers, basically.
Exactly.
Yeah,
right.
I mean, I think a lot of it has to do with, I think it has to do with a lot of opportunistic people who saw the precinct project of Dan Schultz on the Steve Bannon show pushed, huge by Steve Bannon. So, thousands of people heed the call, become precinct activists. And then what? Is there any sort of follow-up in terms of how to be, a steward of your community, what you should do, leadership building? No, it's just you're there, and now you're, go overthrow the local party. And then what? Is there a plan of action? Nope. It's just constant, people just be angry and go in there and not have any sort of plan or solution to do it after you take over. And don't worry about don't try to find out what the records are, the actual records are of the activists locally. Just go in there, run roughshod all over them, take over, and then we'll have an America First country. And now I think a lot of people believe that. Now they're understanding the hard reality that that's just simply not going to be the case. And Liberty people, I think of yesteryear, the Ron Paul people, like me and you, Adam, the Tea Party people, when we, were doing something similar, I think we ran into the same brick wall. And then a lot of people got disaffected. They quit. Other people adapted. They kind of learned from their mistakes and became more effective. I'm hoping that most people who are in this movement right now, the new America First movement, got involved because of Trump. They will adapt and start to become more productive fast. Because if they don't, it's going to be even more hard for Trump to win, and for us to stop the one party control of the governorship, the House and the Senate. So that's my hope, is that they'll hit the brick wall and realize, no, I have to be more productive rather than just having these fights with people who have 90 to 95% of the exact same viewpoints as me, because that's not productive.
Yeah. All right, let me read some chats here. Trump 24 says, there's a common theme among those who use the term rhino or the actual disruptors in these states. It's such an overused term that now everyone is a rhino, according to them. I'd push back a little bit on that. There is rhinos are a real thing. They really are. And I would not say anyone that uses the term rhino is must be a disruptor. I've used that term many, many times over the years to describe a lot of politicians. In fact, I have a fair number of rhino scalps on my wall from politicians I've defeated over the years, as Shane has too. But I think it's like, look, used very much excessively. Go ahead, Shane.
And when you call everyone a rhino, you're taking the focus off the real rhinos. People like Mike Rogers for U.S. Senate, for example, who supported the Patriot Act.
Speaking of that, 1,150 people signed that petition that is being delivered to someone in the Trump campaign that we'll see that it gets the president's attention. I'll put it that way. So we'll get news release out as soon as that task has been completed. Thank you to everybody who signed that, including, by the way, I saw some of our detractors' names on that petition as well. I'm not going to name their names because it's between them and the Trump campaign, but they know who they are. Just
Good.
goes to show sometimes we can agree on things and not others. That's okay. Oscar Barton says, so 10 months of people leaking to the Detroit News party business and spreading constant negative attacks isn't chaos. Well, I mean, you could say it is, although I don't know how many people you're talking about there. I have no role in that, but Christina wasn't removed for negative press in the Detroit News. It was because she had not raised any money and was getting state committee members into serious legal problems with frivolous lawsuits she was filing and interfering in county and district party business. George Hiller, I don't know what this is in reference to. You're saying the three, I think you might be talking to someone else in the chat. I don't know what this is, so I can't comment on that. Jason Mickelborg asks, do these other states have closed caucus theory as well? Scott, have you heard anyone talking about doing that, about having no primaries at all? I do think some of these states must have partisan voter registration, so they might conceivably have closed primaries. But we're talking about the no primary, just go to convention, precinct delegates, elect state delegates, nominate for president and other offices. Have you seen that elsewhere, or is that just in Michigan?
Yeah, so to some extent in Idaho, they did that with the presidential primary, and it was a closed primary, and then they go to a caucus, and it's a somewhat closed caucus. It was a strange caucus the way they did it. Excuse me. In Arizona, though, this is very strange. They have a closed primary. They have a good closed primary. Everybody's registration is by party, and so you have to change if you want to vote in the other primary. You got to change your registration in advance, but a disruptor legislator actually sponsored a bill, and it failed. But it as I understand it, it would have replaced primaries with a legislative primary. So the legislators from each party would then select the candidates. It's just
very weird.
Yeah.
And that sounds almost like a rhino operation to me. Let the lawmakers decide, but I don't know what I know.
But it came out. It happened at the exact same time that the closed caucus thing started becoming known here. It was very strange.
Daniel asks, doesn't Utah already have a closed caucus, which is, again, not to be confused with the primary, a straight to convention operation? I don't know that. Scott, do you?
I don't know I haven't looked into Utah yet.
Yeah, I don't know anything about Utah. On Rumble, it's me against Cy says Tim Scott is a rhino, and Chris G65 says Scott can't be a rhino. He loves Trump. I mean, okay, maybe I threw that out there. Maybe I shouldn't have. I do certainly recall clearly Tim Scott making bad votes that alienated me at one point or another down the road, but whatever.
Yeah, and Mitch McConnell and other people have propped up Tim Scott as like, oh, he's the future of the party, and I wince every time I see that. Oh, he's the front runner to be VP. That would be a terrible decision if Trump made Tim Scott his vice president. Talk about a guy who brings nothing to the table intellectually, and at the end of the day, like Mike Pence, if the political wind's blowing the wrong direction, he's going to be taking orders from the establishment for sure.
Yeah. Chris G65 says, I like Byron Donalds for VP. It's me against I says, I like Rand Paul for VP. Hey, yeah, there you go. I don't think he's going to get it, but I like Rand Paul too. So
I've actually heard Tulsi Gabbard be floated, relatively seriously. I think Trump even was like, oh yeah, I'm considering her as vice president. I think that would be the best possible pick. But I feel like, it would cause a lot of backlash among, traditional Republican types, but that's something that could bring in moderates and independents on board to the coalition more than anybody.
Yeah. I mean, the way I would look at it is there's got to be a Trump coalition. The old guard and the neocons are not coming back to the GOP anytime soon, and good riddance. The new people coming in are the working class people, the blue collar Republicans that are coming in, the Macomb County, what they used to call Reagan Democrats. Those are the new people in the Trump coalition. If I was Trump, I'd pick someone that appeals to those kind of people. That's who I would pick, but I don't know. Ron Picard says nobody can pick our library board candidates like precinct delegates. I don't know what that's in reference to, Ron, but there you go. I also says, do we want Tulsi in 2028? I'd be cautious, man. She was a Democrat until very recently. I don't know how much I don't know. We'll see. 2020, it's a long way away. Bethany says she and Trump might actually kill each other. Yeah. Hey, I'm still a Rand Paul supporter. I think Rand should run in 2028. Anyway, what else we got, Scott? Do we want to? I think I really want to talk about your article, which we've barely even touched on. To tell you the truth, we're already at almost an hour and a half into this, and
yeah,
if you see the scroll bar on the right side of the screen here, we're like barely a quarter of the way through this article, which goes on for a very, 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 very long time, and it's very thorough. So there's no way we're going to get to everything here, but you do go through a lot of this in immaculate detail. So I think maybe, yeah, this is a. What is this claim here? You're old enough to say X minutes read. This must be a 2-hour read, which is worth it. Worth every moment, though. It really is. So,
yeah, it's at least a 30-minute read, but
well,
it's
if there's things you'd like to touch on tonight, because obviously we're not going to go through the entire thing, but I would certainly encourage people to go to. In fact, let me actually change this up on the stream so that it's got the address. There it is, biggertruth.substack.com. And if you go to that main link there, you can see your articles. There's the story right here, the fourth one down. And there's also the full video of Steve Carra's epic speech. And and really all of your articles are posted here now too.
Yeah, I put all of my articles up.
Which you guys should all become a subscriber to Scott. His journalism is second to none. In fact, nobody else in the country that I'm aware of has been talking about these things until Scott did. I just thought we had a problem with our state share, and all of a sudden it's like, wow, this is. I mean, to really go into, to see the similarities of what's going on in all these other states.
Yeah, and there's more. I've had people since I published this. I've had people from Oregon, Nebraska, and Texas contact me. So, yeah, it's happening. I'm certain that it's happening everywhere. Yeah, they've been looking into.
I think they looked into Idaho, South Carolina, Washington. What other states were we talking about? Arizona.
Yep. So yeah, the 4 other states. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean,
like your chart here.
yeah. I think that was fun. That was. Arizona is really interesting because there's so many. There's just so many different people involved in it.
It's funny when you read what's going on in another state and you like to see exact same thing is happening in my state. The abuse of Robert's Rules of Order to manipulate the outcomes of meetings, extremely common feature in every state. Bigger Truth is examined. Disruptor organizations teach classes in the specific use of Robert's Rules of Order, change convention rules, cause delay, shut down opposing motions, prevent evade, grind down, and wear out opponents. Disruptors frequently cause meetings to run several hours later than anticipated until enough PCs give up and go home. Even disruptors to come out on top. Yeah.
That happened even in the LD4 meeting last week. Like 20 to 30% gave up and went home because it took them an hour and a half just to come to an agreement on the rules for the meeting.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Yep. And these sort of tactics,
getting rid of Robert's Rules. Honestly, I mean, and this is something that these people don't understand. Well, certainly not. I see. The problem is, we used to be civilized. We could have nice things. Now people need to understand. Well, actually, Robert's Rules is supposed to be the backstop for when your bylaws don't have orders. That for when there's not just a simple, way to run a meeting that normal people can just use.
Yeah.
Anyway.
It's a tragedy what's happening, but it's also, I think, in the end, for Michigan and for other states, it's going to be a positive, because the solution. There's only one solution, and that is to attract, to recruit, and to train just level-headed, intelligent, hardworking delegates that want to help to save the party and make this country a better place. And if we could max out on delegates statewide, 15,000 delegates that, and have a large number of them that are well educated, well informed. They really care about the party. I mean, it could be a pretty exciting thing. So, and it's not an overnight thing. This is really hard work, and they're forcing our hand if we don't recruit, because they're recruiting hard. They're running phone banks. They're doing all kinds of things. They're recruiting really hard for May 7th. But
Yeah.
so if you're out there and if you're upset about what's happened to our party and you're not a delegate,
You
file.
become a precinct delegate. Yeah,
May 7th
absolutely.
is the deadline to
Crazy.
file. Yeah.
Go to your county clerk's office. They have the form there. They'll notarize it for you for free. File to become a precinct delegate, folks. And you might have to compete with one of these people in your own neighborhood. But luckily, they don't knock on doors. So it might not be difficult. Aska Barton says, Adam, I'm referring to you blaming disruptors /ass roots /K cultist for trashing the MIGOP for removing the chair, when for 10 months others have trashed MIGOP relentlessly. Do they not see the damage that has done? Leaders in all factions of the GOP need to figure out how to get everyone to work together. Ass roots are not going away, and we want all our candidates to get elected to keep their promises and govern constitutionally. Well, okay, first off, I actually like the term destroyers more than disruptors, but disruptors is what's stuck, so I'm sticking with disruptors. Ass roots is my trademark. Never used the word K cultist before. I have called them cultists because that's what they are.
I've used
anyway, so referring to me, okay, I'm trying to figure out the sentence here now. Blaming for trashing the MIGOP for moving the chair when others have trashed MIGOP relentlessly. Oscar, you called me before the Mackinac conference, like, give her until after the Mackinac conference. And I did. What happened at the Mackinac conference? Oh, there was a $120,000 bill or $110,000 bill that might have been a donation, might have been a loan. Sorry, things are already going downhill from there. Leaders of all factions need to. Sorry, go ahead, Shane.
And a lot of the people who had an axe to grind for Christina from the get-go, they weren't. They were turned off because of Christina's blatant lies during convention. Her fundraising plan. She's gonna have thousands of small businesses on board, throwing money at her nonstop because of how great she is, and so she misled all these different delegates, and she Pied Pipered them and made fools of us all. And some of the more savvy delegates were extremely turned off, extremely pissed about that, and about the attacks, the unfair attacks that were coming out of that camp that made convention so needlessly brutal. So that's why there was a lot of animus from day one, not because of some deep state conspiracy necessarily, but because of Christina's lies to delegates. And a lot of the bad behavior that was going on at convention. It caused those rifts, and Christina could have, tried to unify, could have tried to mend fences and lessen those rifts, but just got more paranoid and insular, listening to weird ass Mike Lavity and other people. So that's how it happened. And now we do have to. I agree, though, we do have to move forward. There's these factions, aren't going to go away. How do we, just bite our tongues and work for Trump and get Trump elected, and then fight it out after Trump is in office, hopefully. That's what I think is the answer. But a lot of people don't want to let that go, even just temporarily. They want to keep having these fights, and it's going to screw us in November.
I think what is it that we're fighting for? So are they fighting just they want Christina back? Like what is it that they're really fighting for? And I think if we look at that, as far as first, I think Lauren's got just an outstanding point there. That hypocrisy is pretty extraordinary. And
all the Christina people, let's point out, they had this illegal meeting on January 13th, where almost all of them, almost unanimously, they voted to expel something like 4 or 5 different members of the state committee who were not there to speak in their own defense on charges that were completely, flagrantly improper. They were accused of a conflict of interest, which is complete nonsense. And then they convicted them all and voted to expel them, which fortunately was an illegal meeting, so they couldn't. But given the opportunity, that's what they all would have done. And they've been proud of themselves for doing it, like a lynch mob.
Right. Yeah,
Anyway,
and the other point that Oscar was making is you've got you guys were trashing Christina this whole time, but then now all they've done is trash Pete. So what's
yeah, no kidding. There's that little element to it there. Jeff Strasser says, "I'm not a KK cultist. I just watched you guys attack her from day one, like what happened to Trump. I didn't attack Christina until like after the Mackinac conference, Jeff. I did predict it wasn't going to go well for her because I've worked in politics for 15 years and I knew it wasn't going to, because guess what, folks? Being a state chair takes a certain amount of experience in politics that Christina didn't have. Frankly, a lot of the other candidates in that race didn't have it either, but I mean, it was a predictable outcome. It just was. Sorry, that's the way it goes.
You didn't have to be Sherlock Holmes to figure out what was coming.
Yeah. 6 members and Melinda. So there are seven people. 7 people.
Well, and so what a mature adult would do now is they would say, let's see what Pete does with it. Let's give him the benefit of the doubt and let's see what he does with it. And let's support him. Let's do exactly what we were asking everybody to do for Christina. Obviously, what she did with it was destroy the party. But what this isn't about for all of these, for the people on top, there's the people on top that know something about what they're doing, and everybody else is just following them, and their emotions are all into this. For the people on top, this is about one thing, and that's power. That's all it's about.
They don't necessarily even have to support Hoekstra. Just get involved. They have counties, they have organizations, they have districts, the more Caramo aligned factions, they have their base of power. Just get involved there and hit doors and get more voters and move the ball
Get
forward.
more precinct delegates signed up, by the way, folks. It's a race. We're telling you, the only thing these people care about is the precinct delegate elections. So you better file. You better get your friends filed. Get your family filed.
And the reason for that is power. That's the reason why that's the only thing that they care about. They just want power.
Yep.
Yeah, my point though is that they don't necessarily even have to support Hoekstra to be effective in getting Trump elected. They can do their own thing as long as it's productive, and we can do other groups can do parallel things and just not step on each other's toes. But it's the constant combative nature of we're going to attack other Republicans, and not even Rhino Republicans who agree with us 90 to 95% of the time over some bizarre purity test and all this different weird QAnon stuff. So it's really bizarre, but that's the situation that's at hand, and we're just going to have to deal with it the best we can and try to move forward and bring in new people who haven't been taken hold by this stuff.
For sure.
It's amazing. All right, guys. I think that's going to do it for us. We are, as it's been a little over an hour and a half. We will. I don't know. I'm still not sure if I want to do a running commentary of the Melanie Greenfield struggle session. Other than I do think people should watch the entire thing from start to finish, if you have time. If you can make yourself do it, because you really need to see how these people actually operate in the real world when it comes to destroying the reputation of one of their own, just because they have a grievance. It really is nauseating. It really does show exactly who they are. So be sure you do check out that video. Subscribe to Scott McMahon on X and on biggertruth.substack.com. Shane, you have a website too. I think you got something in your backdrop there, a Big League Politics. You've been covering a lot of stories over the past many years, exposing a lot of rhinos, more so than any of these other people in the chat. The Virgin K says, yes, let's just work hard and win Michigan for Republicans. I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope so. Yeah, Dan Law says it really is a must-watch video. So maybe we'll do it one of these days. Anyway, you guys have anything else you want to promote before we call it a night?
I give a quick plug. I actually I'm gonna have tomorrow. I'm launching my podcast tomorrow afternoon, and at 4:00 we're gonna have our first episode, and it's gonna be on Twitter, Facebook, on the Bigger Truth Twitter, Facebook, and I'm not sure where else it's gonna be. Rumble's a pain in the butt, as you know, Adam. So I don't know if I can Rumble,
but it's a slight bit better now because they finally gave me a static stream key, so I don't have to actually come up with a new
Oh,
key every
okay.
time I
So
stream.
maybe,
So that's-
maybe Rumble. I'll figure it out, but it'll be. I'll post it on for sure on Facebook and Twitter and
yeah,
YouTube.
I think you still have to figure out, like you said, every stream on Rumble separately. But anyway, we can talk shop after the.
Okay. All right.
the end
But
of the-
anyways, yeah, so I'm gonna have. I've got three lined up. So tomorrow at 4, I'm gonna interview Melanie actually, and we're gonna go over at least a chunk of that thing. So Melanie, Doug Bourgeois, who Dan Bonamy accuses of being a Democrat, and also Barb Schroeder, who Roxanne Dufort has removed from the EC in Mackinac County for attending Grand Rapids. So and Dave Davis as well, who was on that call. So we're gonna be
Excellent.
looking at that call. And then on Friday, I've got John Gibbs Friday morning at 9:30. And we're going to be talking about his experience in Ottawa County with Joe Moss, which is the parallels are just extraordinary. And then on Friday afternoon, I'm going to be with the chair of LD4, Morgan Perry, in Arizona. So
There you go. It's me again. Cy on Rumble says I only use Rumble. So there are some folks out there that will only see you if you are on Rumble. So
okay,
there you go. Bigger Truth is your handle on X, and Bigger Truth on Substack.com, and I'm sure they can find your other platforms like YouTube and so forth on those as well. So excellent. Look forward to tuning in. Shane, what you got? Anything coming up you want to plug?
Just a week from tomorrow in Flat Rock, having Wine Wednesday with RNC Committee Woman-elect Hema Kalagolready. Yeah, it's the best way I could try to pronounce her last name. But she'll be there. And also State Representative Jamie Thompson will be there as well. So it's going to be a fun event.
Cool. She was our guest on last Sunday stream. She was excellent.
Yep. We're going to be, signing up delegates and be free wine, but just make sure to RSVP at delegates number 4trump.com. So check out the events there. Going to be signing up a lot of delegates. So bring in new people. We're going to be having fun events all throughout the state. So check out delegates number 4trump.com. Got the shirt here too. Final plug. So delegates for Trump.
Nice.
We're gonna have those for sale. They're collector's items, so make sure to buy one.
I think what you guys are doing with that is awesome. It's both a get out the vote and a delegate recruitment and training, and it's just all wrapped into one. I think it's awesome. So fully support it.
Appreciate it. So, and yeah, support Scott too. Check. Do you still have a Give Send Go, or is that all on Substack now?
I still have the Give Send Go, so you could go either way. Yeah, thank you. And I'm just so grateful for your guys' support and for everybody's support. It's just been starting from nothing to doing this. I've given my all, and I appreciate everything that you guys have done. So thank you.
Rock on, man. All right, guys, that's gonna do it for us for tonight. I don't know when I'm streaming next during the week. It's gonna be probably one of these days though, because we still have other stories to talk about. National news, global news, all kinds of stuff, and of course our usual stream every Sunday at 9 p.m. Until then, as always, guys, thanks for all you do for liberty. Peace.